Welcome back to 88.1 WNAS New Albany. I have the pleasure of being joined today with Gabe Evens. Gabe, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Gabe is playing with the Doug Finke Friends Big Band, and it'll be featured in the Louisville Jazz Society's Signature Concert Series. He'll be playing along with Doug and many others at the Melwood Arts Center on Sunday, November 26th at 7 p.m.
That's right.
And
yes.
Gabe, so the first question that I'd like to start things off with is, when did you first start playing jazz, and what was it about the genre that originally captivated you?
Okay, so for a professional musician, I started very late, actually. I started when I was 15.
Okay.
I started playing piano when I was age 15. I had played violin before that, like Suzuki violin, which I liked, but I didn't love, and it was always a fight with my parents about practicing and everything.
Yeah.
So my oldest brother had been playing jazz piano, and I heard it in the house and started getting these songs in my... I started getting these songs in my ear, and then I took some lessons, and I was just completely all in. I got some CDs of, like, some of amazing musicians like Oscar Peterson and Miles Davis and Thelonious Monk and names like that, and I just couldn't get enough. I just fell in love with it.
Awesome. And once you started playing, you seem to have really taken off based on your playing history. You've played all over the world, in Singapore, Spain, and even playing with the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra. How were those experiences, and how did you pull that off, playing in all these different places?
Well, okay, so after I started playing when I was 15, I just was eating it alive. I mean, I just couldn't. With the violin, it was like my folks were like, practice. With the piano, they're like, can you please stop practicing for a minute so we can watch TV or something? I just couldn't get enough. About 6 months after that, I started playing. My teacher started asking me to sub for him, like a little solo piano hotel gig, stuff like that. I started meeting people in the community, and suddenly I was like this high school kid gigging around town, like making money, having fun, just completely immersed in jazz. Now, as far as like, I don't know, I've been doing it a long time now, so I've lived in different places. I've done exchanges, in college. I lived in Spain, and then I lived in Spain again later. So I didn't travel the world touring like that. It was more like I happened to be living in Malaysia with my wife, who was playing in the Malaysian Philharmonic, and they needed a pianist for a pops thing, and so she gave them my name, and I ended up playing this gig. But if you do something long enough, you end up sort of doing it in a lot of different settings. And then you'll get hired a lot if you're professional and you do a good job. So
yeah.
That's did that answer the question?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And you've also done a lot of your own work. I read you have about 7 albums that you've released originally under your name.
Yeah. As a leader, I think I have 7 or 8 albums. I've always been, ever since I've been playing, I've been composing. Maybe after 6 months after 6 months of playing the piano, I just sat and I wrote a tune. I just composed a tune. I don't think I wrote it down, and then I started writing. My brother, at the time, my older brother, was a recording engineer, so he was like, I was like, I want to make a recording. So all my stuff is self-produced. I haven't, as a leader. I mean, there are other people who I've done some things for, maybe some small labels, but as a leader, all my stuff I've just created. I'm just compelled to write music. I write music because I love it, and then I have to get it out of me. I have to, before I can move on, I have to record it, and then I record it and move on. So most recently I did a project called The Search for Happiness, which is a suite of 9 parts about I was like, what is something universal that everybody can relate to? Search for happiness. And I recorded that in 2 different ways. I recorded it with a jazz quartet of some local guys around town, amazing musicians, Jacob Duncan on saxophone, Chris Fitzgerald, my colleague at U of L, on bass, Mike Hyman, amazing local drummer. We did a recording of it, and then I did another recording with a string quartet, because I arrange and compose, and jazz bass and piano. And I got artwork to go with each of the movements, and then this day and age, CDs are kind of obsolete. Like, you can't sell CDs. Vinyl sells a little bit if you want to do that, but it's unbelievably expensive. So instead, I just decided this, for the first time for this album, I just decided I'm just going to release it all completely digitally. So I just put it on YouTube, and it's just free. I mean, the market for jazz is practically non-existent. It's very marginal. So, but regardless, if 17 people listen to something or 17,000, just getting it out as artists, that's what we do. We just have to get it out and then move on with our development, and
and that's the beautiful area of jazz, just things being done strictly on passion of the musicians that make their work. And so what are some of your favorite aspects on both the side of composing your own work and then being involved in the production and sound engineering parts of it when you are producing your own work?
That's a great question. Well, the composing is a joy, and then performing my compositions, not always as joyful. So I really was a performer for most of my career, and the composition, I've always been composing, but it's become much more serious as I've gotten older. And so the composing part has become really, I love writing now. I just love it. I love playing too, but writing is where my heart is above all. So, but anyway, the creative aspect of it, whether it's performing or composition, is a real joy. The production, in terms of like recording and stuff like that, I want to hire somebody who has their own vision, who's their own artist, and give them freedom to do it the way they want. Now, during the mixing, yes, I sat in the studio, but mainly I just try to defer to the experts. That part, the mixing and all that, there's some people who really are controlling about that. Like they have a really precise vision. I do not. I just want to get somebody who I trust, has good ears, and then I might be like, okay, no, the piano could be a little bit more this or that, or the bass is too loud or too quiet. But after that, I like them to do their thing.
Yeah.
Same with the artwork. There's an artist in Malaysia. I met him when I was living in Malaysia, who I've used for many, many different projects, because I just love his work, and I just give him. I don't tell him what I want him to draw. I'm just like, here's the project, here's the music, here's what it's called, do your thing. I love the art he produces, but that's not my thing. I love the composition and the performance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting how all of the people that you work with that are involved on the project, you give them complete creative freedom. And you also mentioned that you teach at U of L. So what's it like sharing this connection of a love of music and in a way kind of passing down this passion to other people?
Let me say this before I answer the question. There's not much of a career for a straight-ahead jazz musician these days. So when someone's coming in for 4 years, dedicating 4 years of their life to studying jazz, or 2 years for a graduate student or whatever, from the beginning, I want to be clear about that. You're not learning necessarily something to do in order to make a living out of as its sole thing anyway. There are gigs, but it's not the easiest life. So to me, learning music and teaching music is really about getting to know ourselves. It's about growing. It's about growing as artists, as human beings. It's learning useful, practical skills in all kinds of realms of our life, in our jobs, in our relationships, and everything. So I look at, and it's a healing. Music is about healing. It's about expressing ourselves. It's another form of communication. It's a nonverbal communication, and and it's about perseverance. It's about physical technique, self-expression, expanding our minds, coordination. I mean, it touches everything.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I'm teaching music, is kind of helping people to learn how to be the best versions of themselves they can be. And yeah, if they happen to go out and get in a band, and like a lot of them do, and do some touring and make some money, or end up playing gigs and making a living, or teaching themselves, that's all awesome as well. But the teaching to me is also incredibly enjoyable. I mean, I if I were to win the lottery and just never have to work again, I would continue to go into U of L and continue teaching every day, just like I do. It's a joy on its own, but it's actually especially wonderful to get a salary and benefits doing it. I'm very lucky, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's really such a refreshing perspective, the way you seem to view music in such an extended manner, crossing past just music and really how it affects our lives in various aspects.
Yeah, it's totally connected with us, yeah.
So now I'd like to shift a little bit to your upcoming gig with the Doug Fink Friends Big Band.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be, once again, done at 7 o'clock at the Melwood Arts Center on November 26th. What can we expect from you all as far as the set list goes? And
sure, yeah.
What we're thinking with that.
So that's the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So a nice time to kind of go out and, you may have some family in town. It's a nice vibe. Post holiday, post meal. So this is a big band, and what Doug has done, and really emphasized with this band, is there is a huge canon of big band music available. Like, you think of Count Basie and Duke Ellington and Thad Jones and Stan Kenton and on and on and on. There's like hundreds of thousands of great charts.
Yeah.
Doug's concept was, instead of playing all that stuff that's been played a million times, which is great, and that's what we have listened to and love, let's get actual local people in the band or in the community to compose all the charts. So all the music, I don't think we're doing a single thing that is not written by somebody. I might be mistaken, but I think almost every single thing we're doing is written by somebody either in the band or in the community. So most impressive to me on this particular concert is there's a chart done by a high school student at YPass named Thomas. Mm-hmm. Blanking on his last name. But anyway, he wrote a chart based on a Pat Metheny composition called Minuano.
Okay.
And he wrote an amazing big band arrangement of this for... He sort of doesn't even... I'm like, how do you know how to do it? He plays percussion. He also plays some jazz piano. Like, how do you do this? And he's like, I don't know. He's just incredibly gifted kid. He wrote this great chart. It's a big guitar feature for our guitarist. I have 4 charts on this one. One is a real aggressive salsa kind of song. A ballad about my father's battle with dementia toward the end of his life. It's called A Laugh in the Fog. Doug has written a few charts. They're kind of blues and the Count Basie style. Real exciting, swinging, feel-good, toe-tapping kind of music. That will be just fun to listen to. We have a trombonist, really talented guy who went to U of L, Ethan Evans, who he wrote a fun chart. It's in an odd time signature. It's in 7, and it has a little salsa montuno thing going. It's on a jazz standard called Dreamsville. That's really fun. But you can just expect a lot of passionate, great-sounding, big band jazz written by, that we're kind of... There's a little bit more ownership to it because we're all more intimately involved since the compositions are by friends of ours or people we know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Sounds like there's a lot to look forward to. It sounds like it's going to be a really unique concert experience for the audience.
I want to say one more thing about this. The venue, the Melwood Arts Center, is a really cool room. It's big, but it's just really well laid out. There's like artwork up around. There's a great pizza place right next door if you want to grab a bite to eat before the show. And
there
I think,
you go.
Yeah. If you're older than a high school student, 21 specifically, I think you can get some wine or beer during the show. It's just a really great vibe. It's super fun. And the musicians, the band, are pretty much the top performers in the region. Like it's like there's no slouches in this band. It's like a super professional band, and everybody. We've been rehearsing pretty much once a month since last Thanksgiving. So it's going to be a great vibe.
Awesome. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Gabe Evens, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
You can see him and the Doug Finke Friends Big Band on Sunday, November 26th at the Melwood Arts Center at 7 o'clock. Thanks again to the Louisville Jazz Society for helping make this happen, and this is part of their Signature Concert Series. Once again, thank you, Gabe.
Yeah, thank you so much.